So I'm very happy to be here today to share my vision on French employment law, and more specifically on preconceptions. Because you see, there are many preconceptions about French employment law. So, okay, to start, a few words about myself. My name is Alexandra, as you know. I've been a lawyer specializing in employment for more than 15 years now, and I've been a consultant to French and also foreign companies during those years. And I'm also involved with many international business network clubs, and as a result, I often speak to foreign investors who want to develop their business throughout Europe. And they think about coming to France, but they're kind of reluctant, you see, because of preconceptions about employment law. So let me give you a couple of examples. I can hear, for example, in France, I cannot hire or fire who I want. It's impossible to dismiss people. Unions make the rules and are the employer's worst nightmare. And another common preconception, I'm sure you guessed, because it's the topic, the 35 working hours week. Because foreign investors think that French people only work those 35 hours, and they think that they do not start their working day before 10 a.m. in the morning, that they take a 2-hour lunch break every day, and so they say, my God, it's impossible. It's incompatible with my business model. What am I gonna do? So today, I'm here to explain why such a preconception is false. First point, important point, the 35 hours. This is not a maximum. They can work more. They can work overtime. You see, you can work overtime. You only have to comply with some working time limitations, like the 48 hours a week. You cannot exceed that, and 10 or 12 hours a day. If you comply with it, you can do as much overtime as you want. I know what you're going to tell me. You're going to tell me that overtime is expensive. It's true that when you have to pay overtime, you apply a rate which is higher, like 25% for the first 8 hours and then 50% after. So you're going to tell me, yeah, it's quite expensive. But what you should know is that a collective bargaining agreement, so at the industry level or the company level, can provide for a lower rate as long as you're not below 10%. So you can reduce your cost. And second point, very important for the overtime, you can replace the payment by rest time, so you don't have to pay. So you see, overtime can be less expensive if you apply a lower rate, or you don't have to pay it if you grant a rest instead. So it was my first point, you can work overtime. The second point is that you can, if you have it provided by a collective bargaining agreement, you can adjust the working time over the year. So what does it mean, adjust? It means that you can adapt working time to peak and lows in activity. So for example, the employees are gonna work more than 35 hours during some weeks, and it's going to be offset by weeks during which they work less than 35 hours. So you see, it's very flexible, because you can provide working weeks during which they're going to work 48 hours, and some other weeks where they don't work at all. So don't...
Who has the choice? The employer or employee?
The employer, you can provide it in your collective bargaining agreement. So you have to negotiate, and I will tell you more about it later. So you can see that it's... Don't tell me that French employment law is not flexible. So it was my second point, and now the third point, when it comes to managers, because managers, of course, work a lot. Most of them have an intellectual activity, and it's difficult to calculate working hours. So French employment law provides for a system which allows the employer to calculate working time in days over the year. In fact, there is a maximum limit, which is 218 days a year. And since there is a system of pay in lieu of these days off, you can extend the limit to 235 hours. And when you use this system, the maximum working time limit of 48 hours a week and 10 hours a day don't apply. So it means that they can work much more, until almost 72 hours a week. So you see, don't tell me that French employment law is not flexible. So it was my third point. So of course, to be able to use those systems, like the second one and the third one about managers, you're going to need a collective bargaining agreement. And so I hear you telling me, oh, but it's impossible to conclude a collective bargaining agreement in France, especially if you don't have unions, because you know that in France, most of collective bargaining agreements are concluded with unions. Unions can be difficult, but it's another topic. And you're going to tell me, okay, but small companies, they don't always have a union delegate to negotiate. So what do I do? I'm going to tell you what you're going to do. Thanks to Emmanuel Macron, I'm sorry. Thanks to, yes, the new laws, and which are applying, now it's more flexible, and in small companies, you're going to be able to negotiate collective bargaining agreements with staff representatives, under certain conditions, of course, or even in very small companies, directly with your staff, with your employees. It must be approved by 2/3 of the employees. So it's not such a big deal to be able to conclude a collective bargaining agreement. So it was my third point. So I hope now, because I'm almost at the end, I'm at the end of my talk. So I hope that you're now convinced then you can have your employees work more than 35 hours a week, and that French employment law on this topic, at least, is quite flexible. So I'm done now. Thanks for your attention. Yeah.